upped your production values 1,000%. And yes, indeed we have done that. Primarily because, tell you why, and Kerry will chip in here. Primarily because we did a talk last week at Digital Taunton, or on behalf of Digital Taunton, and their production values were so outrageous that it was like Hollywood. So we thought, well, we've got to actually bring something to this audience a little bit better than that. So Mr. Morgan very kindly agreed to do some music, and that was really cool. And he is going to feature, of course, in the rest of I'll Be Back as we introduce all our guests and what's not, because it's much better than watching me ham-fistedly play my guitar. So a big thank you to him, and a big welcome to all you wonderful, kind, generous, talented people who have taken time out of your busy schedules to join us for 1 hour of your life for I'll Be Back. Go forward today. Now, I will say straight in advance that this is going to be our last, not our last one, that would be really melodramatic. It's going to be our last one. Then we normally take August off, and I see no reason not to take August off again, and we'll return in September. So we thought, I've just got a feeling, I've got a sense that we're going to be a little bit demob happy in this event. I don't know why that. We've got some great speakers who I'll introduce in a moment. We've got some surprises. And obviously, one thing I will bring my attention to is that chat facility, right? Because obviously that is an opportunity for you to ask questions of the speakers, which we'll do near the end. But there's a couple other things I want to bring, right? And I haven't really talked about this to anybody else in the order. I want to talk about this thing here that I have, right? Right, it's this is it's an owl. You can see that, right? It came into our household earlier this week. I'm not sure what you're supposed to do with it, really. It's like I don't think you can put it on your fridge as a fridge mat. Well, you can put some blue tack on it. Anyway, it's an owl, but it's an owl that's meant to look like Elton John, right? Elton John. That's the idea, right? So when he came to our household, we all started saying, "Oh, Elton John." When there's any Elton John puns for songs, right now. Allegedly, I'm supposed to be the creative one in our household, but I was put to shame by the rest of all the people. I'll hold him up as a visual cue, right? Because obviously, Elton John, you could have things like Tawny Dancer, couldn't you? That's a winner, isn't it? You could have Candle in the Wind, and then all of my family at home and my extended family, they all started doing this, and they all started coming up with them. I couldn't get any, right? And I'd be sitting there like, literally, I can come up with something. I'm going to come up with something. And then somebody said, it was Barney at the Vets, right? Like, yeah, very good. It wasn't me though. It wasn't me. I'm still struggling. Then somebody said, Saturday night's all right for flighting, right? Oh, it wasn't me again. It's a pretty good one. And I did come up with one, which was, all you pretty wings, and that's David Bowie. So it's rubbish, wasn't it? Right? Basically, I've got to an age where I've completely lost the plot. So what I thought we'd do, well, I've got this out as a little homage to this hour. It's down the side in the chat. If you can come up during the course of the I'll Be Back next hour, you've got to come up with songs that are owl songs, right? Not Elton John owl songs. No. You've got to come up with owl songs, right? And put them in the chat, and we'll go, as the afternoon goes on, in amongst the questions, the best owl songs can go up there, right? And we'll pick a winner, and we'll do some prize. I'll tell you what, we might, whoever wins can have a whole set of their own digital AI portraits created, hopefully with an owl theme, right? So give us those owl songs in the side if you can. I'll give one to start. I think one to start you off. There was one about, you could say something like, "Oh, I'm tawny. You could, but you can't have that one now because I've done it. Anyway, that's just a little aside. Let's get to the chase. I'm doing well here in a digital Taunton, keeping everyone waiting as long as humanly possible before we get started. Right. This is how it's going to work. Some of you are very familiar with I'll Be Back. Some of you aren't. Basically, we come here and we talk about the intersection of creativity, AI, emerging technology, and advertising. And we get some great talented speakers to talk. My co-host Kerry's here somewhere. Are you there, Kerry?
I am, yeah.
Yeah, there she is. So me and her will take you through this journey. We'll hold your hand, so to speak, over the next hour. Essentially, I've kind of done my bit for the start, so that's kind of cool. We've got Kerry, and as ever, I will say, Kerry, when we did this in a kind of physical form, and you do your I want to put your piece at the start, they were always considered rants, aren't they? Right?
I haven't done a rant, have I? I've been fairly restrained.
That's the point.
Since I feel like maybe next time, September, I'm sure.
People feel you've mellowed, right? I don't think what you're doing today is a rant by any way, shape, or form, is it? No, it's no rant at all. It's good-natured, isn't it? It's good-natured. So we have Kerry, and then we'll then hand over to our first non-Tiny Giant speaker, which will be Melissa Thom. who's at the top there, well, top of my screen, a voiceover artist extraordinaire. She's going to wing it. She's got no slides, so she's going to use the power of her velvet voice to entertain and enthrall, no doubt. Will she be using the Kerry Harrison technique of pretending she's drinking out of a mug of tea when it's really topped up with wine all the way? I've no idea. Mine is tea. I didn't know about that trick. It's a
I've
good
got
trick.
both.
Well, it's a pro. What a pro trick that is. It looks professional and you're necking it, right? That's cool. And then we'll have Sila will come on. Sila from Mind the Ad, CEO. She's here and she's going to talk. And then we can obviously have questions on the side, but we'll do all the questions at the end. And of course, one thing we will do is that we'll have Mr. Morgan. Hopefully, we tried this out yesterday. Mr. Morgan, before we introduce people, is going to spin some tune, and he's going to spin some tune at the end. Now, there is one other person I should mention, and that is our VIP guest today, which is Mother. Mother's in the house. Hello, Mother. Can you hear me?
Certainly can, yes.
Yeah, lovely. Are you having a good show so far, Mother?
It's great, yeah.
I thought the tunes worked well, didn't they? As
They're
an
all right.
addition. I think that's definitely gone success. So we'll be coming to you. You're basically going to rate the show as we go along. No, I've already started calling it a show rather than an event. I've got that digital taunting thing. Yeah, the show, right? Funny enough, I will say this because I know Uma's on the line, and Uma is a bit of an Elon Musk stan, and I know we talked about this. But last week when we were at Digital Taunton, right? People. Oh, well, there you go, you see. There you go. Live from Singapore. So when we were at Digital Taunton last week, we were saying about the fact that that it's in really high production value for Taunton. And the guys, there might be people from Digital Taunton today, so I'm not being disingenuous or rude. I like their ambition. They basically said they wanted to make Taunton one of Britain's leading digital hubs, right? Now, people who know Taunton and stuff might laugh at that sort of thing, right? And they kind of said the same thing. Vis-a-vis said, oh, you might laugh about that. But only 3 weeks ago, we had Elon Musk actually just outside in a sort of area between Taunton and Bridgewater. He came to inspect the place where apparently he's going to build a giant Tesla factory, right? So Elon Musk is bringing Tesla to Somerset, so say, within the next 3 years. So suddenly Taunton as a digital hub doesn't seem so silly after all, really. So I'll just say that. So I've done that, now. I've got my contractual Elon Musk comment in for you. So the rest of you, enjoy the event. There's going to be music. Ask questions. Loving those. I think we've had some early hour contenders in there. So we thank you for that. I'm going to hand over to Kerry. And who knows what the next 52 minutes or so is going to bring. So I expect, Kerry, Mr. Morgan is going to run you a few seconds of tune before you start.
Oh, nice.
Here we go. See you later, guys.
We appreciate power. What will it take to make you capitulate? We appreciate power. We appreciate power. The humor is spreading like on my face. We appreciate power. We appreciate power.
Thank you. That was a good entrance. Can you see my full screen? Oh, I can't hear anybody.
Yes, sorry. I've got
Oh yeah, it's full
yes,
screen. It's not. Yeah, okay, that's good because I've got 2 bits open. So hi everyone. I think most people will know that I am Kerry, the co-founder of Tiny Giant and the co-host of I'll Be Back. As Norts said at the beginning of each I'll Be Back, I normally do a 5 or so minute chat. Sometimes it's a rant, but I haven't really ranted lately. I've talked more about how AI is being used in COVID times, and we talked about creativity. And today I'm going to be talking about 5 ways that brands can use AR. So over the last year or so, we've ventured into the world of AR, and it's a really exciting place to be. There is so much happening in this space, and it's really creative, and it's a nice way of pushing boundaries, and lots more brands are jumping on board now. So today I'm going to look at 5 different ways that you can use it right now and give you some examples as well. So we've created an AR lens very recently for the BBC, And it was all around raising awareness of a programme that was on called, and still is on actually, it's called Saving Our Summer with Peter Crouch. And what they wanted us to do was to create a lens that allowed Peter Crouch, who is just very slightly over 2 meters tall, to become a social distancing tool. And you could go onto Snapchat or Instagram, and he could then become your social distancing tool, so you can have them on your phone and make sure you're not too close to anybody. So it's quite a nice, fun way of using an AR lens. And then we can also have him in your house, wherever you want to be, and stand next to him. This is my daughter Harriet, and she's very small compared to Peter Crouch, but this is him in our living room at home. So it was just a nice, fun way of celebrating that programme, and also having a bit of fun with AR. So that was our lens, and lots of brands are now using it in terms of creating awareness around a particular event or an occasion, a show or a movie. So that's the first example. The second way of using it is trying for size, and I think this has become probably a little bit more prominent and definitely relevant in times of COVID, just where we've not been able to go out. So this is an example which you may or may not have seen already. This is from IKEA, who are always very ahead of the game, and you can basically put a piece of furniture into your room and check that it works in the space where you live. So this is an example here of a very nice yellow sofa, and you can see if it works in your living room. And obviously you can do that with loads of different pieces of furniture. So it's a really nice way of just checking that things work, and I suppose just deciding on the colour even, which one works best in your house. So this has been done by IKEA. There's also a company called Warby Parker, who are an American-based company, who sell glasses online. And obviously it's quite tricky to buy glasses. It's one of those things you do really need to try on. And in this case, they've made it really easy to do that online. So normally they would post out, I think it's about 5 different pairs, and you try them on at home and then choose which one you want, and then you can buy them online. But this, it makes it a lot quicker. You can just do it instantly. You can try on whichever glasses you want and just check how they look. So literally just on your phone or online. And this has also been used lately with shoes as well. So this is an app, Gucci app, that allows you to try on a whole range of trainers, so you can see what they look like and even walk around in them and see how they look as you walk around. So I think this is definitely something that more people will be looking into, while people just want to shop online, they don't necessarily always want to go out and buy things. And it's just a really instant way. I suppose it's a quicker way of buying, because you can try them on and go yes or no, and then just click buy straight away. So quite a nice thing for a lot of retail brands to start playing around with. Number 3 is making buying easy. So we just talked a little bit about that in terms of trying on, but it's also a really nice way of bringing products to life online as well. This is an app that's actually, it's not an app, this is a web browser called 8th Wall, and they're doing a lot of really interesting stuff in this area. This was a project they did for Mulberry with a particular bag, and you can go on and have a look at the bag in really great detail. So you can pretty much hold it almost in your hands 360. You can move revolve around it. You can look at the real texture of the bag. And also this bag had different coloured handles, so if you wanted to, you could change the handles and explore what each different one looked like, which is again something that you would want to do before spending an awful lot on a bag. And I think that you'd probably be quite reticent about buying a bag just online, especially with something as expensive as this. But I think with AR, because it makes it so lifelike, and because you can look in real detail and really move around it and look under and over and round and through and try all the different combinations, it's much more likely that you would buy it without actually having to see it in person. I'm trying to think what else. I can't see my next slide, so I just have to. Oh yeah, and also this works well basically with any product. These are some Nike shoes that you can go on, and again, it's just, rather than just being a flat image, it's being able to move around it. And if you go into this website, you can actually move around the shoe, lift them up, turn them around, and it just really feels like you're there and you're looking at them in person. So a lot that'll be happening in that kind of space going forward. It's also really nice to bring something that's normally on paper to life. This is something that we did a couple of weeks ago, actually. Hopefully, I might not be able to see it. Oh yeah, bear with me. My internet's quite slow. And this was using an Oyster card and then bringing to life a map. So hopefully you can see that. Oh gosh, I've lost my screen now. Sorry, just to share again.
It comes with the territory. Comes with the territory.
Sorry, my internet's really slow here. Yeah, so did you see that example okay? You did?
I'm going to say yes.
Okay, good. So that was to show how you can use something flat, like a card there, and it would bring something to life. So the tube map there, and you could see how you can sort of move around it and look at it. It almost very lifelike in your hands. And that's the same as well. You can do quite a lot with QR codes. You can do it on business cards. So you could have a video, or you could bring, I don't know, a building could pop up. Literally anything can pop up from a piece of paper or from a card. So we're really keen to do one of these ourselves, actually, a business card. I think it'd be a really nice thing to do. And yeah, if you're doing brochures or magazines or anything like that as well, it's another way of really bringing something to life. And the last one is also, it's just about having fun. So it's a really fun thing to do. It's very creative. It's really interesting. And we've done, sorry about real tech issues today. We've done this one recently. This was built by Derek. It's probably one of my favourite ones that he's done. And I don't know Derek, if you're able to put it on, because then you can see it in real life. Derek should have it on the screen somewhere. Have you got it on? Yes, he's got it on. And that's how it works. So that's a Snapchat lens. You can put it on, and you can be a gold face, and it just looks really lovely. And I think there's a different background as well that you've done, Derek, as well. It's got like stars and moons on it. That's yeah, that one as well. So they just look really nice, and they're just quite fun to do. And on top of that, there's also been some really lovely stuff that's been released in the last week or so by Snapchat. So Snapchat are investing a huge amount of money into this kind of space, and this is something they did really recently, which I thought was really beautiful. So I'll just turn up.
Understand individual buildings and allowed lenses to interact with some of the world's greatest landmarks. Now, we've continued to evolve the technology to understand and augment larger areas, unlocking exciting new capabilities. Using various sources of data, 360-degree images, and community snaps, we're able to build up a digital representation of the physical world, a point cloud representing the geometry of the surfaces around us. Combining this with 3D reconstruction, machine learning, and distributed cloud compute, we're able to map whole city blocks. Meet local lenses. Now, Snapchatters can join a persistent shared AR world built right on top of the physical one. You and your friends can step into these worlds together, collaborating creatively and experiencing a whole new dimension of AR.
So that gives you an idea there. And I just think it looks absolutely amazing. So you can see at the very forefront of it what Snapchat are doing. So they're turning basically whole neighborhoods into almost like a huge art project, and people can interact with each other and be part of something bigger. So I just think that's a lovely example. So that's a very quick whistle-stop tour of some of the things that AR can do in terms of brand for your brand. And yeah, any questions, obviously give us a shout. And I think that is me. So thank you very much. I will now hand on to Melissa Thom, who's going to be talking about her a whole load of stuff, including featuring in the Grand Theft Auto video game. So I'll pass you over to Melissa. Thank you, Melissa.
Bye.
What an intro. Thank you so much. I'm absolutely loving the DJ. So thank you. My name is Melissa and I am a voice actor, and it's really lovely to be invited to see some people rather than being in the studio all day and talking to myself. I met Richard initially voicing for Indicia and Konica Minolta, and then I met Kerry later on when Tiny Giant called me in to voice for their Play project. AI poetry inspired by the genius of Sylvia Plath. And if you haven't checked that out yet, I would recommend having a look at it. It was really fun to be involved. So Richard's asked me to chat about my work as a voice artist. There's going to be no slides from me, just a tiny bit of chit chat about VO really and what I do. I wanted to talk a little bit about what's interesting about voice for me, despite the fact that essentially voice was the first broadcast medium conveyed over the airwaves in 1895 by Marconi, as I'm sure we all know. It still remains relevant today, obviously with the rise of voice assistants and as a way of interacting with and humanizing computers. My husband is a little bit of an expert in all this, so we quite often have late night chats about all this stuff. For me, the human voice encourages empathy and connection. It's all about connection, and really probably why it still remains a strong part of the mix. So from those early days in radio that I mentioned, right through to today's advanced technologies, including AI, speech recognition, and TTS, I'm seeing a lot of those jobs coming up, text to screen, voice has still remained a vital tool for communication. In fact, Alexa frequently fools people into interacting with her as a real human. This is a standing joke in my house. My relationship with Alexa is not a good one, and I shout and swear at it quite a lot. My kids laugh, but that's kind of another story. So my own VO career has, in some ways, reflected this voice evolution. So I started out in commercial radio in 1996. I didn't even realize that until I sat down to think about this talk. And I didn't feel like it had been that long. But that was actually a couple of years before Google was even founded in 1998, which makes just a bit weird for me. Now I find myself working increasingly really with tech companies. And of course, I collaborate more and more on interesting and fascinating AI projects with companies like Tiny Giant. So I was going to talk a little bit really about my background. It all started in Brighton for me at a very small music radio station called Surf 107.2. It was probably my best job ever. There was a lot of partying, great bunch of people, really good mix of specialist dance music shows. And then I went on to host breakfast shows for large UK radio groups, so Chrysalis, GWR, did breakfast for about 4 years. And then after a few years, I created a startup based on the internet with my husband. The technology was called Audio Enable, and we ran a not-for-profit arm called Radio in Schools. And looking back now, it was pretty ahead of its time in the fact that we created a full online audio editing suite before they were ever available. It won national awards, we had a lot of fun. After 3 years, we pretty much ran out of money and closed it down, the usual story of a startup, but we had learned so much. And to this day, we still talk about how much we learned on that initial startup. After that, we went for startup number 2, and my husband set up a second screen company called Second Sync, and that went on to be acquired by Twitter in 2014. So I worked on their comms with them and voiced many of their online films. After that, we moved to California for 2 years, and through a series of, through a whole host of unlikely coincidences, I ended up working in the US voice industry. And whilst I was there, pretty much I started working for the likes of Facebook, Google, and Amazon, and continue to do so now back in the UK. So today, as well as corporate VO, I pretty much voice anything, actually. All sorts of interesting stuff comes through: medical, documentary, e-learning, IVR, and video games. And last year, I was invited to LA to talk actually at something called the Worldwide Radio Summit. And it was completely random. The whole thing was random. Someone contacted me online and said, "We know about your radio work, will you talk?" And I thought, you got the right person? I'm not sure you want me, but I went out anyway. And whilst I was on the panel, I met another guy who was talking for around 2.5 seconds, maybe. And we went on and I didn't hear anything. And then 7 months later, I get an NDA through to voice on a particularly well-known video game for Rockstar Games. So that job ended up with me on station imaging. For those of you that don't know, station imaging is when it's all the bits of the radio that you hear that isn't the presenter, the music, or the adverts. So it's the Surf 107.2, that stuff is imaging. You probably all know that anyway. And I did the imaging for a radio station based wholly within the game. So some of you may know Grand Theft Auto. I don't know how many of you have played it. And I worked for Grand Theft Auto 5, voicing for iFruit Radio. And it was so cool. It was hosted by musicians, Danny Brown and Skepta, and it was a real blast. I loved it. And for me, given my past in radio, it all seemed a bit meta, but that's kind of another story. I was lucky enough to work directly with a guy called Laszlo, and he is the brains behind the whole radio strategy. Lots of people know him as the in-game host. And I had so many people asking me what character I had played, and somewhat sheepishly, I was like, well, I didn't play a character. I just did the radio stuff. And then everyone got back to me and said, but the radio is the best bit. So I feel really, really lucky to have had that. And it was just really out of a random meeting. But I asked a few of my musician friends, well, just creative friends, what they thought about the radio in Grand Theft Auto. And one of them, a good friend of mine, Dan Moore, who's a musician in Bristol, he said, there's nothing like picking up your mates in a helicopter whilst heading off into the sunset, discovering new music and listening to the banter on the in-game radio station. And I've gone down a bit of a rabbit hole with this. You know, it's a whole different talk, which I'm not going to do today, but it is incredible for someone like me who started off in music radio to then be voicing for something like Grand Theft Auto, and then to find out how amazing that strategy is and how much work they put into it. I mean, that really is a whole other talk, which I decided not to go down that today. But it's fascinating stuff. So really, as for the future, who knows with VO? Maybe Alexa will put VOs out of business, but I don't know. I think it will be a long time, personally, before AI can bring the level of depth and emotion needed that an experienced VO can provide. I know Chaz Rose on here, and I know he'll agree with me. And for me, experience really is the key. Actually, you put every drop of life experience into your performances. It's particularly with things like video games, and the nuance, the musicality of your voice, and the knowledge of your art, knowing when to turn on characters. Richard asked me earlier on, yeah, you do some voices. And I was thinking, oh, I'm not entirely sure I can just switch that on right now. But it's so important. That life experience for me makes a huge difference. So if you want to check out any of the Grand Theft Auto stuff, you can head over to my site, melissathom.me. But more importantly, if you ever want to chat about VO or anything voice related, I love working with the guys at Tiny Giant. There's never a time when I don't feel excited about getting an email from Richard or Kerry and them telling me about their latest ideas. And as a VO, it's a real pleasure to work on that creative stuff. So I would love to chew the fat with you. And that is it from me.
Hit it, Mr. Morgan.
When we're out there dancing on the floor, darling, and I feel like I need some more, and I feel your body close to mine, and I know my love gets a
Right then, it's me, it's Norts here. Norts here. Now, Sila, right?
Yes.
Could you just unshare your screen a second?
Sure, yeah.
Right, because I've got to give you I've got to give you a run up before I introduce you, right? Got to give you a run up. Just a couple of quick things there. Just quick thing about from Melissa. Thank you very much, Melissa, for your time. Few things, right? You were contractually obliged to say Tiny Giant 3 times, and you passed that test. Fantastico, right? Number 2, it's very nice that you actually get excited when you get an email from me, because most people call out the police or something, right? Or restraining stuff. So that's another winner. It's great to know that there's another talk we can get you back. That's always another great thing, isn't it, right? But of course, the thing I really was ringing in my ears, I don't know about you, Kerry, if you felt the same, it was that fact you said, that first startup destined to Of course, we're in the midst of being a first-time startup, so I'm going to take a little bit of time to reflect and ruminate on that turn of events and maybe think about what happens. Doesn't matter. Now, before I introduce Sila, I will say that we've had some very good entries in the Owl Song department, and probably what I'm going to do with me Tiny Giant co-founder and Derek there in the gantry. Perhaps we'll decide on the winner after the show because there's so many. I don't want to rush it, right? I think we'll ponder it to get the right one, and we'll probably put it up on the Twitter who the winner is, right? So we'll put it up. We are Tiny Giant Twitter, and we'll sort out the winner. There have been some good ones. I will say to Peter that you can't have songs that it's got to be a pun or a play on words, isn't it? Like I think you mentioned a Carly Simon song called Night Owl. Well, that's just a song called Night Owl, isn't it? I think Joe Rafferty had a song called Night. There's got to be some degree of wordplay now, I think, unless you're going for that particular approach. It's entirely up to you, really. But keep them coming. Keep them coming. Kerry and Derek, if you do keep an eye on the chat, please write down your favourites, right? And we'll have a little consultation after I'll Be Back is done and dusted. Right. So, and also. We've had a couple of questions in that we'll ask later. I'd like to ask Melissa about the rise of synthetic voices. I put a thing up yesterday, actually, just to bring people to this, just to get a few stragglers. And of course, I used technology of Synthesia, Tiny Giant Friends Synthesia in London, on the Just Eat thing. And then I did a little thing where you can actually make your own video from text to a synthetic voice. And I was particularly taken by John Payne's very entertaining post he put on LinkedIn today. It just goes to show John Payne that Synthesia don't check the copy that gets put into their automated machine, wasn't it, right? Which immediately started me thinking very subversive thoughts, right? Because it seems to suggest they check everyone. They obviously don't, do they? Anyway, that's enough about that. I want to get to our second speaker of the day. Our second guest speaker today, which is Sila Isik, who's co-founder and director of Ads. Mind the Ads, based in London. She's been to, I think, came to the last one. Our paths have crossed. We're very excited to hear what she's going to talk about video production. So, Sila, we're going to introduce you with a round of applause, which I'll do now. But before, of course, Mr. Morgan is going to give you a suitable musical intro so you can prepare yourself, okay?
Okay.
Mr. Morgan, if you'd be so kind.
Ooh. Thank you for the introduction. It's hard to follow Tiny Giant, Melissa, Mr. Morgan, so many faces today. So I've been attending I'll Be Back since in London, actually. I know some of the familiar faces and really happy to be finally speaking at this event. So thank you for inviting. So we were just talking before about Richard's and this group's love of goats since the past few sessions. So I didn't want to leave you without seeing one today as well. So I wanted to start with a picture of goats on trees that I took on sabbatical a few years ago to tell you a bit of my background and what was I doing at that sabbatical as well. So I was running the creative digital agency Mind the Ad for 5 years in London at the time before taking this year and going around the world for business development with some tech companies in 12 countries, but also just going after head-turning moments and anything creative that I stumble upon like this, anything new, innovative. Made a lot of connections with accelerators, tech companies on the way, and I decided to gather a portfolio of creative technologies, and I came back to London. So I changed the company and became a creative tech broker, actually, now working with other agencies and brands to introduce them to these marketing and creative tech solutions, ranging from AI to AR and VR, video technologies, and anything unique to design better customer experiences and also help enhance quality and revenues for agencies like how we used to be. So today I chose to talk to you about the current situation in video production industry and the AI solutions that are addressing that. And then I'll go on to show you one of my portfolio creative tech companies that I represent in the UK, United Plankton, to tell you about how they're using innovation for their own process. So here's a glimpse of the current landscape of the video ad production industry and the power of video ads. I want to give you some facts here from Facebook's case studies and the IAB research. Here we can understand that the video is definitely now the driving force behind the digital ad spend. It's mostly consumed on smartphones, and it does achieve a higher rate of conversions for the brands compared to the ones that are using still and static images for their ads instead of videos. So how does AI come into play with the production technologies of today? The short answer is video production as an industry has yet to completely implement AI technologies, but there has been a lot of research and development going on. First of them is, of course, with Adobe. Adobe now has Adobe Sensei, which is their AI and machine learning technology across all of their products. They have been working on video adaptations for different platforms, and they developed the AI-powered new feature recently for the Premiere Pro software that they have called Auto Reframe. This is a glimpse of how it works. I have a short clip.
Auto Reframe is a new tool for optimizing video for devices and social platforms. Powered by Adobe Sensei machine learning technology, Auto Reframe dynamically adjusts aspect ratios such as square, vertical, or 16:9 video.
As you see, Auto Reframe can automatically identify the main action happening in the video and crop and pan the frame around the footage to fit within ratios like square or vertical videos. So it sounds very good, right? But here is what Adobe says as a disclaimer on their website. The motion designers say there's still a need for fine-tuning for complex sequences. So it does save a lot of time to begin with in general, as long as the projects aren't graphic intensive and the results are quite good. But there are still limitations for more complex projects, and it still needs human adjustments, as sometimes we creators want to choose what's important for us to show in a shoot, depending on the context, rather than it's decided automatically by AI. So it's unfortunately not a perfect solution for every situation. Amazon Web Services, on the other hand, has developed an AI-powered service for their users called Recognition, with which you can detect objects, scenes, and faces in your images. This feature they call labels is also very helpful when we think about video production. It can save a lot of time for editors to detect certain scenes from a very long video and automate tasks such as inserting ads at relevant places, or breaking down like large volumes of footage into separate shots to help with editing. But again, it's not 100% there yet, as you can see the score. So it provides a percentage score for how much confidence Amazon Recognition has in the accuracy of each detected label. And lastly, Facebook. So last year they launched a feature called 3D Photos. I'm sure you have seen it, which adds a layer of depth in photos and slightly animate them. So how it works is that the AI captures the distance between the subject in the foreground and the background of a photo, then fills the space in between to bring scenes to life with depth and movement with something like a parallax effect. This way they allow their users to produce 3D photos from any standard 2D pictures. Again, so there are some limitations as with this as well. With the depth sensors can miss the same color object in front of the same color background, or like transparent objects like clear plastic or glass, or close-up photo of a person, like it's hard to detect. So they're also still working on bringing this depth estimation for each videos, but say that it's a challenge because each frame depth needs to be consistent with the next. So they keep exploring to create these experiences to engage their users. So looking at the current landscape, we can see the demand from brands and consumers. It's all about speed, mobile compatibility, fast, real-time production these days. So Adobe, Facebook, Amazon, other companies, they're all trying to create different solutions to produce and optimize more and more video content to bring to consumers. And here comes United Plankton, a company that have been working passionately to innovate the video production process for the past 5 years. They're working to leverage the AI solutions I mentioned to implement in their technology, but as they are not 100% accurate to use, United Plankton developed their own secret sauce technology to deliver high quality assets with high volume to increase account margins of their brand and agency partners. So how do they do that? I'll show some examples. So with their own innovations in their production process, they have first built their technology and special software to animate static images. Let me show you. So they generated plugins and effects and managed to match them by recognizing the objects on the images and optimize the process time by scaling it up with to repetitive tasks. So with this approach, they become the fastest company in the world to produce videos from static images. This is an example from Coca-Cola, as you see. So they just received the static image on the left and they managed to turn them into an animated and a highly engaged version within only 30 minutes of process time. So with this software, they can scale this up to apparently 250 video deliveries per day, which is especially now attractive for media agencies, for any e-commerce, FMCG, fashion brands who produce a high variety of content every day to target different audiences on different digital channels. They also produce videos from static multiple images as well. For example, when they receive a series of still images from the brands, this is an example when Adidas sent 3 stills from their designers, and this is what is quickly turned into an animated video to share. And as the rising numbers of digital video consumptions in mobile devices, I mentioned, United Plankton also helps with video adaptations and mobilizes TVCs to distribute in social channels as well, such as Square videos or Instagram stories like this one. This is also delivered only within 30 minutes to the client, to Cartier. So lastly, they can also produce 3D product animations from still images, again being the fastest in the world. For the delivery type of this type of work is reduced to 1 hour with their technology. So this example that you're seeing is for helmets. So these videos, they can actually be created for all digital distribution channels, including TV, out of home, in-store screens, digital signages, and also social media. I'd like to show you, and with the case study of how they helped Turkcell, which is the biggest GSM provider of Turkey, by helping them save 84% of their yearly production costs by delivering them 823 videos last year. Let's see how it's worked for them.
A leading GSM provider shaved 84% of its video production costs using creative technology. And this is how they did it. Turkcell, the leading GSM provider in Turkey, used data to its fullest extent. They reached the right target audience at the accurate moment on the most suitable screen with the relevant offer. This is the new game that requires custom content for every customer group, platform and format, which requires hundreds of video ads. This is where United Plankton comes to the rescue. United Plankton is a production tech company, a partner of Facebook and Google, and already providing service to over 500 brands around the world, including giants like Coca-Cola and Unilever. United Plankton's technology is second to none in speed in 2 main areas: turning images and storyboards into videos, and repurposing existing videos for social and mobile. They do both within 30 minutes after receiving the brief for a rate as low as £315 British per asset. Turkcell harmoniously added United Plankton to its agency and production ecosystem. In 2019, United Plankton produced over 800 videos for Turkcell to be used on TV, social media, digital out of home, and digital signages. Turkcell not only saved hundreds of days of work, but also saved 84% of its video production budget using United Plankton. Contact United Plankton now and learn how you can also get better, faster, and cheaper video production technology service at scale.
So United Plankton, as you can see, they're helping more than 500 brands around the world already. Now with even more work coming, as you know, live productions are on hold. Everyone is trying to maximize their limited creative assets and their budgets. So as I said, with up to 250 videos delivered per day with their technology, brands get the scale and the cost efficiency, and agency partners get a new revenue channel and also an increase in loyalty from their clients because of the quality and the speed of work that they managed to deliver. So that's it from me today. Thank you for listening. So I have an offer for all the participants of our call now, because the best way to have a feel of how this is actually working and how fast it is actually to ask for a free demo, where you can send a static image asset to me and we'll just convert it for free. Plus, we can offer you guys an extended deal of 10% off of all the videos that you order until the end of the year as well. So you please feel free to contact me. I can provide you with the deal. I can send you a presentation, all the work examples, and the cost as well. Hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to connect. I'll be happy to answer your questions now or later as well. Thank you for your time.
Do my head toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Head toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling? Woo, child, tired of the bullshit. Gone, dust your shoulders off. Keep it moving, yes, Lord. Trying to get some new shit.
Hello, right, I'm coming in.
Going to the pool sheet.
Now, I'm just gonna. I just want to apologise, because I know you're there, Kerry, aren't you? Because lots have questions and whatnot, and also you're going to do the wrap up. But I just want to apologise before we start. I'm coming over to you in a second, Mother. I want to have a little chat with you in a minute, right? But I realised that when Sila was presenting, that's brilliant. Some of that stuff on is amazing, isn't it? Like taking just a flat image and doing it in half an hour. That's incredible stuff, right? But I just realised I was like sucking my moustache comb while I was watching that, realising that it's like, can you imagine? Then, oh my God. Anyway, sorry about that. Hopefully you're watching Sila's presentation rather than me sucking a moustache comb. But if that's your thing, maybe I can monetize it. I don't know. Anyway, right now, before we get to some questions, because I've got questions, there's some questions on here. You've probably got questions, Kerry Harrison. Questions. I would like to talk to Mother, if you're there, Mother.
Hello.
Yeah, how's your back?
In the house, heels click clack in a bound. Fine, fresh, feminine style to 11. I'm divine, so heavenly, gentlemen, sweat, next down, across the board, no doubt. Body like wow, she about to get in this trap. Titty so plentiful, fish queen, Jezebel should be criminal. Don't make sense for a bitch to be dissing down. Right to the side, what is that sound? Watch me drop into the ground. From the floor, drop to the floor. Add up the 10s to get the score. I've been that bitch, yes, I love that love. Fishy, feminine, up and coming. From the Clintons to the Obamas, I keep it tight. Now they call me Mother.
Oh, no, I didn't see that coming. We'll have that again in a minute. Hey, hello, Mother. How are you, by the way?
I'm all right, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for. How's the back Southwest been for you so far? This is your first, obviously. How's it been?
Well, it's been very informative, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I mean, in your general line of work and do you encounter AI very much?
Well, no, I mean, this has been very mind-widening, if I'm brutal.
Well, that's all right. I could go straight in there with a lot. I'm not going to. I'm not going to play to the double entendres. I was thinking about lobbing earlier, my tennis ball haircut, but I chose not to. Mother. Now, can I ask a favour of you? Actually,
Go on.
I was thinking, right, because we're saying we've had so many good owl song entries, right? And I don't know, I was thinking about this, fellow Tiny Jumper, I don't know it's fair that we should judge it. And since you are kind of our VIP guest on the show, and I really like that music again in a second, before we come to the Q&As, Mr. Morgan, could you take a look on the chat and could you pick a winner in, say, the next 10 minutes or so we can announce who the winner's going to be? So we could do it, because it's fair then, because you're neutral, you're coming at it completely fresh. If that's all right with you,
That's fine,
I'd like you to use your maternal expertise to kind of pick out what you think is the best owl song. It might be quite a challenge.
No, I think it'll be fine, yeah.
Okie dokie. So while you're doing that, Mum, could we have Mother's music for a second there, Mr. Morgan, before we go to our next section of the show?
I've been that bitch, yes, I love that love. Fishy, feminine, up and coming. From the Clintons to the Obamas, I keep it tight. Now they call me Mother. Jaded cream bitch, I love that drama. Fishy, feminine, up and coming. From the Clintons to the Obamas, I keep it tight. Now they call me Mother.
Right then, so we got some questions, I think. Kerry, you there? Kerry Harrison, you in the house?
I am. I can only see
You're
one
a mother
question.
too, aren't you? Oh, okay. Well, I've got some questions. I've got my first question. I've got a question for Melissa. I've got a question for Sila as well. A question for Sila, and also some of you other fine, good, decent people who we've met in the past at London I'll Be Back, right? And anybody can volunteer. What the hell has happened? I've got a question for you, Melissa, and also I think because Chris Rowe's here, isn't he? Somewhere.
Chaz.
Yes. I go with
Chris.
Charles.
It's the same thing.
Charles. No, it's Charles, isn't it? It's Chaz or Charles. So I was talking to Charles last week. What's your thoughts? You know, you talked about Alexa, and and obviously Google and that. What are your thoughts about synthetic voices? Because you know they were a bit drunken sailor a couple of years ago, but they're getting good. Would you, for example, be willing to voice over if your co-voice was a synthetic voice?
So I get asked this question a lot. My husband's for Amazon now and was previously at Twitter, and we talk about these things a lot. I think each individual job has to be assessed on that individual basis. Being someone that I feel, the one thing that I'm not a fan of in the VO industry right now, there's a lot of negativity. And I just feel that whatever is going to happen is going to happen. And us as VOs, we need to get on it. We need to pivot. If our career is on the line, I don't believe it is quite now. I don't think we're there yet. It may be in 10 years it's gone, but I guess now is the time for us to work, in my view, to work with the companies that are developing this stuff and see what our role could possibly turn into. I mean, we just don't know what that might be. So as far as I'm concerned, we got to kind of work together and see what happens. I don't think we're there yet. I don't think when people say to me, VOs, it's all gone, you know, your job's going to be gone in 5 years. I'm like, bring it on. If that's what happened, then happen, and we need to go on and do something else. You know, with I can think that's what we set up a certain idea, and a very short period of time that becomes something completely. I think that VAs have to do that as well. You know, it's business basically. So it's a difficult question. You know, I kind of like to remain positive. From what I've heard so far, I haven't heard anything that would make me worry yet, but I'm not saying that it wouldn't be like that in a few years' time. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Oh, hang on, I can't hear you.
No, sorry, I was muted. That's why I muted myself. Given your highfalutin connections with, like, you know, Twitter and Amazon, you could well find your voice synthesized to become the voice of Amazon, couldn't you? We could have you as a choice.
I think there's been quite a few issues in the past, as far as I'm aware, although please check the sources. I am not your main source. There are quite a lot of gigs that I get through, particularly from American agents, and you have to consider them quite a lot. So a lot of text-to-speech jobs are becoming, you know, they're coming through more and more. And as a VO, you really have to consider the implications of voicing those jobs right now before we know what's going to happen. And I know for a fact that, you know, in the past, VOs have worked on a specific job and then their voice has been taken and used for something else. So, you know, the boundaries are becoming wider and wider, the legalities. I mean, I know Chaz has done lots of work in looking into these things, but, you know, it's very hard for a voiceover artist who's not experienced. I mean, I'm lucky. I've got comms experience, I've got business experience, I've got startup experience, I've got a very talented husband, and, you know, I'm lucky to have that resource. Most VOs are VOs and they don't necessarily have that legal experience, and I think that is a real problem for a lot of VOs working now. We could talk about the commoditization of voiceovers through platforms like Fiverr, but I'm going to leave that for another time.
Yeah, we'll save that for another day. Although, yeah, Fiverr in itself is interesting. Now, Kerry, have you got anything from the chat line or anything you'd like to ask Sila, or maybe you want to ask yourself a question? Entirely up to you.
We've got a couple. We've got one from John Reay asking if there's going to be a 1 meter Peter, which is a cracking question. I think we'll have to chat to the BBC about that, John.
I did think actually earlier when you called Peter Crouch a social distancing tool, I think that's probably the politest thing he's ever been called at a football ground. Probably, isn't it?
Probably.
Yeah, 1 meter Peter.
And then Kerry Ann's asked about how long it takes to build AR elements. I would say, Kerry Ann, it totally depends. So I built a very quick, like, baseball cap in Snapchat with an existing template. It took about half an hour. But then things like the one I showed you at the end of that video, that Snapchat one, would take a hell of a long time to do that. You can have something in between. We built the Peter Crouch one in, Derek, you might want to correct me here, but I think it was about a week for each piece, and that included sort of going back and forth as well. So it really, really depends on the project and whether it's going to be sort of 3D or 2D and what platform it's going to be on. So you can do web-based platforms. So the ones I showed you with the Mulberry bag, for example, is web-based, and then you can also do things on the phone through things like Snapchat and Instagram and Facebook. So yeah, there's two different aspects of it from that point of view. So hopefully that answers that question.
And here's an amazing thing. Get this, mother. See this on my head? This isn't even real. This is an AR sombrero. It's not even there, to be honest. That's how good the technology is these days. And that one on Luke Barrow's head, that's not even there at all. In fact, that moustache on his face, that's AR as well. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable what you can do with the technology, mother. Hey, speaking of which, you've got some augmented backgrounds. I saw them earlier. Are you going to switch them on for us? Because you took us all over the place earlier.
Who's that, Derek?
No, Mother had all sorts of backgrounds.
Yeah, Derek's got some good ones going on as well.
Let's have a little, before we go to our next query, I've got a question for Sila, actually. There you go. Mother in Space. That could be a Netflix movie, couldn't it? Also, Mother in the Library. Mother in the, yes, that's any number of situations in Tiny Giant.
Can we also get a little, Derek, you had one earlier that you were sort of rocking away to the music with a little faces. Derek can just literally clip between them. Look at that.
No, I don't know if you saw this the other day. There was this strange thing that popped up on social media where this came up, and it was like, oh, it's going to be some incredible new social media thing. And it was quite cool because they had the emojis in their URL, and everybody said, oh, it's coming out of California. It's going to be the new TikTok. We don't know what it is. But actually, what it was just a group of sort of technologists who were doing tech for good, and they basically sort of piggyback on people's obsessions with sort of FOMO to set things up to fundraise. So they kind of use this. But look, Derek being ever resourceful, he's made the lens of it. So you could try it out. You could be part of that movement, and here's a movement for good. So it just goes to show, much like you were saying, Sila, one of the beauties of these things, you can be creative with these technologies quite quickly, can't you? Like you were showing us a photograph into a fully moving ad in 30 minutes. Of the ones you showcased us, or any other, what do you think, in your opinion, is the best use of that technology you've seen so far across all the things you showed us? What's the one, and where will it go next?
I mean, because as I was mentioning about the video ad landscape at the moment, that everyone is consuming video more and more, compared to other formats, and also from the mobile as well, with all the digital channels and social channels. I mean, video is apparently the most engaging at the moment. So that's why the static to video, the example that I showed from Coca-Cola, is the one that the clients go for the most, because what they have is, as you know, at the moment, with limited resources, limited budgets, lots of people on furlough, like lots of limited resources to work with rich media. So they do have these static assets, but they're just giving it to the agencies and saying, like, do the most out of this, like one image, so they're struggling, especially media agencies or brands who agencies only send one asset and they have to pay more and more to get more from the agency. So this technology is really helping out, as you said, from the Turkcell example as well. Even if they have one thing, it just turns into this animated and spiced up and just highly engaging thing on social. So this is the hottest at the moment that's going for United Plankton.
Amazing. Well, what I say to people, if you want to stay, because we're getting near the hour, and Kerry's going to do the wrap up in a minute, but what we'll actually do, if people want to stay on the line and have a chat, if it's okay with you, Melissa, and we might as well stay. That's right, unless you've got somebody you desperately urgent to run off to. Before Kerry wraps up, though, I think it's time to hand over. Are you right, Mother, to give us the result, do you think?
Got the results.
But not yet. All the results, that's cool. But before we do, Mr. Morgan, I think because we are going to introduce Mother giving out the big result, could we, of course, have the music? Oh, I put him on the spot. Oh, dear. No, he wasn't expecting that. Look, he can improvise. He's good at that.
Guess who back in the house? Heels click clack in a bound. Fine, fresh, feminine, child to 11. I'm divine, so heavenly, gentlemen, sweating. It's down across the board, no doubt. Body like wow. She back in this trap. Titty so plentiful.
Okay, Mother, over to you. Can we have the results of the Owl Song Contest, please?
Well, in third place, I've got Maddie Woodman with The Winner Takes It Owl.
Oh, the winner. I'm going to have a little ripple there for Maddie. Third place, not bad, that's perfectly good. The Winner Takes It Owl. I see what you've done there, Maddie. I see what you've done.
In second place, we've got Woody with Owl Will I Know.
Whitney.
Yeah, Whitney.
Oh, I can't. to Whitney. I can't make it work. So that was Woody, the mysterious Woody.
And little did you know, that's father and daughter.
Oh, there we go. Well done, Woody. Woody.
Well done at second place.
Experience pays. So, right, so.
First place. Is everyone
okay.
ready? With a drum roll. No. Peter Harris with Nothing Compares to Wit to You.
Nothing compares. That's another. No, that's Sinead. Sorry. Peter Harris. We know you, Peter. Hey, look, the classic thing about Peter there is basically he tried that first trick, did he? Just putting a song with an owl in the title. Didn't work, did it? Right? But then he's come back and he's played with the words. What is it again? One more time, please, there, Mother.
Close my book. Can't remember.
Nothing compares.
I've opened it again. I'll tell you. Nothing compares to Wit to You.
He could have to wit to woo, couldn't he, really? But I'm going to tell him he's won. He's won, and I'm happy about it. So, Peter, if it's possible, I'll get in touch with you some way or foot, which we can do. If you send the picture of your choice to us, please, we're going to sort out some AI digital imagery that you can share far and wide to celebrate. I'd love to think we can turn you into an owl of some sort, but let's just see what we can do. Let's see what we can do. In much the same way, I'd love to see Derek turn up when we meet in the flesh there with that actual look that you had on a minute ago. I would love it if in reality you looked like that now, just a pair of eyes and a big mouth. Wouldn't that be amazing? Right, so well, Kerry could do the honours to thank everybody today. We've got a few things to sign out, but if you want to stay online and ask questions of people and just hang out and get through these lonely times, thanks very much. But on behalf of me, because I might not say much from now, just thanks very much for coming along. We hope you're enjoying it. We'll be back soon. But Kerry, over to you.
Thank you. So, yeah, well, I think you've kind of said most of it, but I wanted to say, oh, no. Thank you. I love the background there that you've got going on. What have you got in the back? Hello. So thank you everyone for coming along. It's always really nice to see everyone and we really appreciate it. Thank you very much to Sila and to Melissa and obviously Mr. Morgan, DJ extraordinaire. It's been fantastic having you on. It's added a whole new dimension to I'll Be Back. So thank you. And also to Mother, we really appreciate you coming along. And thanks for judging our owl competition. There's some cracking entries, by the way. So thanks for all of those and for your questions. We are actually going to be taking a break. We're going to have some break. We're going to take off August and we're going to be back again in September. So we do this every year that we've done it. And it's just because people are away and the rest of it. So yeah, we're going to be off in August, but look out in September. We haven't got a date yet, but we will have soon and we'll let you all know when we've got that sorted. And last but not least, if you, in the next month or so, if you have time to and fancy listening into a podcast, we've just set up the Anthropology and Technology Conference podcast with Dawn Walter, who's an amazing woman who is organising, well, last year she organised the Anthropology and Technology Conference. It was the first one it had been done. It's all about bringing social scientists and technologists into the same room to talk and to help us to create a more responsible form of AI and to make sure that people and our society is protected and looked after, because although AI has amazing potential, it can also be incredibly detrimental to us and to society. So the conference is all about tackling that, and there's some incredible people. The Anthropology and Technology podcast is interviewing 15 of the key speakers at the event. So I started off by interviewing Martha Dark from Foxglove. That's the first one that's gone up now, so that's available to listen to if you want to. There's lots of other interviews coming up with some incredible people. They are really passionate, really smart, and are all really driven to make sure that AI is going to be responsibly implemented. So do check that out. Until next time, thank you again for coming, and we really look forward to seeing you in September, when I think it's still going to be virtual, but you never know.
Hey, I got a thing to say to you, Kerry Harrison. I got a thing to say to you, Kerry Harrison. We're doing a bit of that Taunton bants. I've got to say, these days you're different. You're different gravy, like they say when it comes to the podcast interviews now, aren't you? Do you know what I mean? You got that. You got that podcast voice now, haven't you? You got that classy podcast voice when you're asking the questions now. I think I'm going to more and more retreat into the shadows, to be honest.
Yeah, right. That's likely.
No, honestly, I really am. I really am, because that is I think that technology podcast is really good. It was so good. I love that last laying into Peter Thiel from Palantir, the world's #1 bad guy extraordinaire, really. And I think there's 15 of them, isn't there, as you say? 15
keynote speakers. Yeah, they're going. I'm interviewing 5 of them, and then Dawn's interviewing some, and then there's someone from the Human Show who's also interviewing another 5. So yeah, it's a really nice mix of people. And
amazing.
Yeah. I should also say that Norts did the music for the podcast as well, which is also really good. So yeah, it's been it's a really nice project, and the whole conference is just really well intended and really important.
Well, I'm going to say, chance. Sila did it first, didn't she? Sila did it by putting an offer on the table to everyone. That's a first for back, but we love that. We'll do a first. Our music is available for weddings, anniversaries, bar mitzvahs, pretty much anything, really. It's just, it's just what you got to do. Now, one quick thing to everybody who's still left on. We thought about launching this today, but we're not. We're kind of involved with creating the world's first AI curry recipe book. Yeah, there's never been an AI curry recipe book before. I wonder why not. But we're sort of involved with it. And with the person who asked us to get involved, we're just sorting out. So I'm thinking it's probably going to, it's been launched like a crowdfunding thing through FundSurf for next Thursday. So it is your chance. It will be your chance to make AI curry history, which I think everybody wants to make a bit of AI curry history. So essentially, we're going to get involved in using a neural network to create some curries through it. So there's going to be a funding thing, and there's lots of opportunities to get rewards and basically take your place in history. So look out for it. No doubt we'll be making a noise about it, probably in the middle of next week. But yes, the world's first AI curry recipe book. It would be nice to cook them up, but I don't know really. It could go any direction. So that's just something to look out for, Kerry, isn't it?
Yes.
And any other business?
I just want to say thank you to Derek as well, because he's been
he's a star, isn't he?
For the whole of this thing, letting people in and just generally always being around. So thank you, Derek.
He does well, doesn't he?
Great show of all of your AR filters as well. Cracking.
Boys on fire. So I guess it's fair to say to the both of us, Kerry, that it's time to wrap. If you want to stay online and have a chat with people after, do so. Thank you, Mother. Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Thank you, Derek.
Yeah,
thank you, Kerry. Thank to all you wonderful, beautiful, talented people who choose to spend 1 hour and slightly a bit more of your time with us. But I think it's to say for time being, Mr. Morgan, while you depart, it's time for you to hit the music.
Cracking job. Thank you.
Please come back again.